evening, Colvin. Thank you very much. We greet our listeners to the National Broadcasting Corporation, Star FM and Garifuna Radio, and those who have joined us via the internet. My name is Dion John, and I'll be here with Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves on the program Ask Prime Minister. After a short break, we're resuming this evening's program. And of course, this evening we will open the telephone lines for you to call us on the program as well to raise any issue of national concern that you may have. Of course, parliamentary question time, and Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves will answer your question. Prime Minister, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Dion. Good evening to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at home and abroad.
Prime Minister, just to begin this evening before we go to the lines, I see them going already, but just want to begin in terms of looking at the projects, the central economic projects that your government has been pursuing over the last couple months.
Thank you very much, Dion. First of all, I want, as always, to set the framework within which we pursue our economic development. There are four central elements which we have to be borne in mind. The first is monetary stability. Our currency must be stable. We must run our regulatory system, that is to say, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the central bank, in a manner consistent with the interests of our people, and the maintenance of monetary stability, including a stable exchange rate. All this is vital. The vital prerequisites to economic development and the improvement of people's lives. So the first one is monetary stability. The second is financial sector stability. The financial sector stability relates to the condition of the commercial banks, how well they are run, what are the circumstances in which they exist, thrive in, moving forward, how they connect with the productive apparatuses, and also consumption of people. There's the commercial banks, the credit unions, there are banks but which are not commercial banks, like for instance the St. Vincent Cooperative Bank, which is a savings bank, the first St. Vincent Bank, and of course credit unions and insurance companies. And we have to ensure financial sector stability. And those of us who are involved in indigenous banking, that is to say banks which are homegrown, like the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it behoves us to make sure that they run especially well. And you know my mantra that small, standalone, undercapitalized banks in the age of a concentration of banking and financial capital are an anachronism. And then when they're overlaid by any liquidity problems arising from an economic downturn globally, you have a real challenge on your hands. And when all that is complicated with less than proper management and incestuous lending, then you have a real danger. So this is why, for instance, that we, in addressing the question of fiscal financial sector stability, we work so well with the central bank, but we have put our own bank, indigenous bank, in good order. That's not the case in some other indigenous banks. And of course, we have made sure that we strengthen our regulatory system internally for insurance companies, building associations, and the like. The Financial Services Authority, you remember when we started that, the criticism which we got from people who ought to have known better, and when the FSA, the Financial Services Authority intervened to save the Building and Loan Association. People tend to forget that they said that Ralph was entering the St. Vincent Building and Loan Association to get money because he didn't have money to pay civil servants. Remember that old kind of foolishness. When in fact we had a line of credit arranged with the central bank, which the government of St. Vincent was taking to help the St. Vincent Building and Loan Association. As it turned out, they didn't have to utilize the credit because of the changes which were introduced by the Financial Services Authority. And you notice that if the FSA did not intervene, the Building and Loan Association would have collapsed. All that is part of maintaining financial sector stability. And similarly, the reforms we put in place in relation to the insurance companies and the like, and what we are trying to recover in relation to BICO and CLICO. So that's the second, monetary stability. The second, financial sector stability. Third, fiscal and debt sustainability. I've always said that our country, where you have the debt to GDP at about 77%, there is no independent country in the OECS which is performing better, and Barbados is performing worse. In our neck of the woods, the only better performer is Trinidad and Tobago, because it has oil and natural gas. And we have, as part of the currency union, a target of 60% of GDP by 2030. And we have a medium-term debt strategy. So we have in fiscal and debt sustainability, fiscal consolidation, debt sustainability. But the fiscal consolidation doesn't involve austerity. That's what the opposition wants, to cut, and unbalance the country. But we are saying fiscal consolidation involves, on the one hand, prudence, and on the other, enterprise. These two horses, so to speak, must ride in tandem. In the case of the opposition, they see it as one horseman of the apocalypse, just austerity, simpliciter, and creating additional difficulties. Then the fourth critical element is growth and competitiveness. This is what we address in terms of increasing wealth, job creation. So I go back to those 4 points: monetary stability, financial sector stability, fiscal and debt sustainability, growth and competitiveness. These are matters which we have been talking about all the time within an overall framework of a mixed economy with diversified economic sectors. And additional, of course, you have to have your safety net for poverty reduction, your pension and retirement system, and the whole array of other critical issues to provide real development, education, health, and the like. But insofar as the specific economic projects are concerned, within the framework of what I'm talking about here, with monetary stability, fiscal, financial sector stability, fiscal and debt sustainability, they provide a backdrop for the growth and competitiveness and for job creation and wealth creation in your economy. What are some of the things which we have been doing? The Argyle International Airport is nearing its conclusion. As I announced at the press conference, we are now on the press conference yesterday. We have now been elaborating the structure for the management, and we will shortly be advertising for the top personnel and recruiting persons so that we can manage the airport to take account of its imminent completion. By the way, in another week plus, the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority will be here for their usual ongoing checks to see everything is going fine. And thus far, everything is going fine in terms of their regulatory oversight about this airport, which is simply fantastic. And everybody who comes, they're just amazed. All the investors who come, they get blown away by what we have done and what we are doing there. Then there's the geothermal project, which is a project of $80 to $83 million US. By the end of 2018, we will have one half of our energy or electricity supplied by geothermal, homegrown. I just want to remind everybody that under the earth, there's a lot of our earth. There's a lot of hot steam, water, providing the basis for geothermal energy. We tried and tested safe, green technology. We are working with Reykjavik Geothermal. We are working with Emera and the Clinton Climate Initiative, the Clinton Foundation, and the Carbon War Room are working with us with that. We gave a full report of that not too long ago when they came here to visit, and you heard what they said. So that's the second. Because energy is critical for a competitive energy system is critical for our economy and for our social well-being. By the end of 2018, we'll have 80% renewable energy. And we will move very shortly thereafter to be a full green economy from the standpoint of electricity. We're doing 20% already, and we're improving that. The work we're doing on the 3 hydropower stations. Right now as I talk, anybody who drives out by Connery see a whole set of big pipes stored down there. They're for the South Rivers improvement. The improvement of the South Rivers hydro plant improvements are being done down at Richmond, and improvements have been done consequent upon the 2013 floods disaster at Cumberland. Then port modernization. You have to have exports and you have to have imports of goods. Look, the port in Kingston is 60 years old. The container port clearly was not built and designed for the kind of traffic which we're supposed to have. And in any case, they didn't build it properly. It's cracking up, and it's not 20 years good since it has been built. So we have a problem. We have done a study financed by the CDB for its modernization, the modernization of the port down Bottom Tongue, Rose Place area. The best option there is $100 million US. We're looking at a private-public partnership. But after further discussions with the CDB, we decided that we'd also study another site, the one at Arnesville. And that money has been approved, and Mott MacDonald, the consultants out of Canada, hopefully by Independence Day this year, they should complete that particular study. So before Christmas, we should be able to tell people where we are going to build this new port, modernize it. You notice how we're doing the airport. You notice the backdrop which I gave. Monetary stability, financial sector stability, debt, fiscal consolidation and debt sustainability, growth and competitiveness. And I'm particularizing certain things now. Airport. Geothermal project, energy, port modernization, then the cruise ship pier. That pier was completed in 1998 or thereabouts, not even 20 years. But the pier was not done to accommodate the big ships. And now, over 80% of the ships which are in the shipyard are too big to come here. And right now, it's only small and some medium-sized ships we can get. And we suffer in that regard. So we have to go out 50 meters, and we have to go down 50 meters. And the Port Authority has already had a partner in this matter, which we're exploring to start early in the new year, and we'll have to expand the terminal facilities, because we have to put ourselves in preparation for when all these bigger ships are coming out from the shipyards. In fact, already there are a lot of big ships which can't come here. Place too small. I'm talking about the pier. Then there's the city at Annesville. Now, I know people are saying, city at Annesville? I remember in the opposition they were laughing at it. Well, while they're laughing, you have 65 acres of land. The World Bank did a study. You have to have certain magnet projects. And one of them is to relocate the hospital. And the World Bank has done a study and said that Annesville is the best place. The old E.T. Joshua site is the best place to put it. But that wouldn't take up all the land, because it's 65 acres. There's an entity out of Trinidad, an investor, big investor, and you'll hear his name shortly. In fact, I have in my files, I'm studying the draft memorandum between Invest SVG and these financiers. They want 20 acres to put down a complex of entertainment, food, trade, and they also want to put into the city, they want to have consideration for a small business hotel. Then we have signed the agreement. We have gone past the memorandum for Mountain Peters Hope. That's a multi-million-dollar project. And the developers, a Canadian group, they are at the moment completing several matters which are required under the agreement to be completed within 1 month. I've been advised that they're having Coopers and Libran to help them provide some of the documentation, or at least the bundle of documentation required by us under the agreement itself. And I'm very hopeful that we'll begin to see some activity before the end of the year. That's a big project. You're talking about, you have about 600 acres of land there, and you're going to have big golf course. You're going to have 3 hotels. You're going to have, because 3 beaches, and you're going to have villas. It's a major development. Then Chatham Bay. Remember, we took back the land. 100 acres, most beautiful land down Union Island. Tomorrow evening, I'm having dinner in Mustique with an investor whom I met already here in St. Vincent last week, who is interested in Chatham. I will continue our further discussion on that. He's involved in hotels and other businesses throughout the world, a global citizen from Europe, but who lives in the United Kingdom. Then there's Adams Bay, which is, they've called Bay de Sucre. That's what they're renaming it, the Bay of Sugar. By the end of, by December, they should be opening the first phase. In fact, this morning at 7 o'clock, I had a meeting with the investors by the Office of the Prime Minister. I should have somewhere here a drawing of one of the, I'll probably find it and show you, one of the 9 villas, 22 rooms. They're going to have 20 villas. These investors are also interested in doing other things, but that's this is ongoing now, Right now as I talk, there's an investor out of Scotland and he's partnering locally here with Kelly Glass. Incidentally, Kelly Glass told me that they should be up and running with Kentucky in another 5-6 weeks. I don't know if they're going to do all 3 to begin with or whether they'll do 2 and then bring the 3rd one on and so on. But they have their own program. Then there are the 4 medical schools, which have now about 800 students. I just want to remind people, when the Kingston Medical College was here, they had 250 students, and they used to only do clinical work, not all year round. Clinical work. They come in from the St. George's School of Medicine in Grenada. Their lease came to an end for the property, the agreement, and they wanted the whole hog. They wanted to have exclusivity on the whole of all the medical facilities, not only the Kingston Medical Hospital, but the one which we had started to build out at Georgetown, all the polyclinics which we had on the drawing board, all the 39 clinics, in other words, all the facilities built and to be built. They wanted exclusivity because they wanted to keep out any other medical school. They were clear about that. And I had told the gentleman, I say, I would agree to give you exclusivity if within 5 years you could ramp up the number of students here to 1,500. And if you could put a school for the whole medical sciences, that is to say involving things like pharmacology, biochemistry, anatomy, to do the whole range of medical related subjects here on a full-time basis. He said, no. I said, well, we don't have an arrangement then. You remember this stick which Eustace gave me? He says because of our closeness to Cuba and Venezuela, why the Americans tell the medical school to pull out. And that is how you have a faulty foreign policy. And this is the thing, and people suffering with the people who rent in. And I said that other medical schools will come. Trinity came, then All Saints, then the American University of St. Vincent and Grenadines, then St. James, and they have over 800 medical students now, and in September you'll have 1,000. People are renting from Camden Park to Stubbs. Lots of people. There are new stories to be had there. And I invite the press to go around and talk to the people who get in their places rented. No. If you, as I've said before, if you want to see evidence of this on weekends, you see the kind of activities, only weekends, during the week too, around the Annesvale Strip. So much so that problems are now being created for people with the traffic. And some of the operators are not taking account of the nuisance by noise and smoke, and they're humbugging a number of people who have their houses nearby and who have to have a quiet enjoyment of their homes, so that then the state authorities have to intervene to have a proper balance. You want people to make money, to create wealth. You want all these permanent tourists who are here, called medical students, to spend. They have to eat, they have to drink, they have to take the taxi. But clearly, we have to regulate the traffic properly, and we have to control the nuisance of the smoke and the noise, and so on and so forth. But that is part of the growing pains when you're developing But we have to make sure that there'd be a proper balance of live and let live. Then, it amazes me when the NDP talks about Otley Hall. I think that's something which they should run away from. I had to get, there are $200 million in debt. I had to get the debt relief. Some which was involved the bank, the National Commercial Bank, we had to write off. And then I had to go to Italy to get about $170 million in debt relief, EC dollars. You remember that? Remember when they say I couldn't get it? And I took a hard position. I paid no money to Sachet and to the consortium of banks headed by West LB. Because I was supposed to make the first payment after I came in June 2001. I wrote to them and explained to the IMF and so on and so forth, and I carried on the struggle until 2007. They gave in and tell me, okay, they will give away the whole debt. They decide that if I pay just $6 million US, all the debt would be written off and I have back on Otley Hall. You remember that? Is it Comrade and the ULP did that, I want to remind people, I take a yoke off the people's neck. Then we had a number of people who were coming wanting to run Otley Hall. But they either didn't have the seriousness or the money. We check them out more than, not everybody who comes, And we kept doing the business there until we consider the right people came by. And I put this matter in the hands of the Director General of Finance and Planning, whom I appointed as the chairman of the board of the Otley Hall Company, and let him lead the negotiations. Arm's length, away from the politicians. And then reported to me, and I said, yes, that's okay, so on, so on, so on, so on. The agreement is in the courthouse. Anybody can go there and read it. It's registered. And we did that to improve Otley Hall. Make sure that it didn't deteriorate further. To create more wealth, create more jobs, because the leaseholders, the lessees, people who have the lease, they are operating, looking for business and getting business, and people can go down and see it and talk to them. Don't listen to the irrelevance of Eustace or any of those fellas on this thing. Look at what is happening on the ground. Then there's a Farmers Support Company. I tell people that last year, we lent $6 million to the Farmers Support Company. The government, we put the money there. This year is another $6 million. Petro-Carib money. 2% money. The report that I have received of the $6 million so far, the farmers have repaid close to $1 million. $900 something thousand is the number which Saboto sent to show me the numbers. If you go about the place, you'll see the rehabilitation of several aspects of agriculture because of that money. You have more planting now in St. Vincent and Grenadines than ever. For instance, root crops, fruits, vegetables. Some people plant back bananas. The Cocoa Project, since Amajara left, a group around Mr. Marriott, who is an Englishman who has a house in Beckway, and he's a citizen of St. Vincent and Grenadines. He's an investor, and he's continuing that particular project. Just yesterday, I met people who are interested in coffee. And they had discussions with Saboto, and then they came by me. because you have to go into a number of different areas. Then there's the digital call center, which coming on shortly. Then the whole set of roads. The major one, of course, is the South Leeward Highway, $20-something million. By the way, you see the kind of investment in South Leeward? Yes. Phenomenal investment. Just this year alone, we opened 2 bridges. The one up Francois, Vermont Francois, which they thought couldn't be done. Just like they thought the Rabuka Bridge couldn't be done. And then the longest bridge thus far, the one down at Hope. And I'll talk about some sporting facilities there just now. And then we have this road, which goes through centrally at place. And of course, Bookament Resort straddles both Central Leeward and South Leeward. That's the reality of what is happening down there. Now, let me just talk about some things with the national lotteries. Just recently alone, I'm not going back to many things, just recently alone, you look at, we gave $50,000 to the Special Olympics. We just, with my concurrence, because these sizes, the board alone and management of the lottery can't do it, the minister has to be involved. $63,000 plus for Starlift to go to our Panorama champions, to go regional, and there will be international competition too down in the Caribbean, the International Panorama in Trinidad. I was supposed to have addressed the conference around that particular time, but I can't go. It's the 4th, and we have Parliament, and some important work in Parliament, including the geothermal bill. And people will see the importance. We can talk about that if we have time. The agenda for the Parliament. Then yesterday we approved $150,000 cabinet for a 14-member team to go to Carifesta in Haiti. A mixture of musicians, creative artists, dancers. The $100,000 of that, up to $100,000, will come from the lotto, and $50,000 from other sources. Now, there are things which are happening, which people don't quite see the possibilities. Let us take football, and we'll see some of these things, how they connect. On the 4th of September, St. Vincent Grenadines plays Aruba here at Arnesville. On the 8th of September, we go to Aruba. If we beat Aruba, and I'd be very disappointed if we don't beat Aruba, but it's a football game and we can't be complacent. We will be entering a stage in the 4th round of the World Cup qualifying against the USA. We'd play the USA in St. Louis, USA. I think it's the 13th of November. So we have August, September, October, 3.5 months to St. Louis. But we have to get past Aruba. But once we get past there, we get St. Louis. Could you imagine the occasion, how we're going to use that? We have to use that to advertise St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we have to advertise our land We have to tell people the airport is here. And we'll have to say to them, when you come to St. Vincent before the return leg, on Friday the 2nd of September 2016, and this is in government, you have to think about this. I think that's the date I got. Now, if you check the calendar, you will see Monday the 5th of September next year is Labor Day in America. Well, we will have Labor Day in St. Vincent because the American team will be coming here. And we will set up things. You could have your Labor Day jamming in Brooklyn. But we will bring the tourists here, land them at our international airport. You could imagine the number of charters which would be coming to St. Vincent to see us play the great US of A. You see the opportunities for hotels, for taxi men, for business people in the city, for the Calypsonians, for the dancers, for all range of goods and services, the producers and sellers of goods and services. Now, this is the way in which now you have a game here like football, and I want to say to the footballers, when you take your game seriously and you run your association properly, there are spin-offs, especially when we provide the kind of infrastructure like the international airport. Of course, Mr. Eustace said that if they were to get in office, the airport wouldn't be finished until 2020 because they're going to close down the operation, they're going to study it, they're going to see what's going to happen. Huh? You see why these fellas are myopic? They can't see. You see where my mind is already? My mind is bringing thousands upon thousands of persons. Of course, you can't compete. You can't have. I mean, there's Labor Day in Brooklyn, Labor Day in the US. That's fine, but we will have our own Labor Day here. We have our May Day, Workers' Day on May the 1st. But we will use the football as a vital promotional hub around which a series of activities that weekend would revolve. And there's so many other things we can talk about. I just want to say, when I'm talking about all of these things, you notice I'm not. They have a gentleman here named Mr. Wellington Ramos involved in a lot of irrelevancies. Adding no value, a lot of hot air about a proposal of folly advanced by Arnim Eustace relating to honorary citizenship for the Garifuna from overseas, those in Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and those who are in the United States of America. You heard my position on that already. And then, of course, one final matter, which I just want by way of introduction to say, I can deal with some numbers in the fiscal outturn up to the end of June, and to say tomorrow I'll be keeping my promise with the unions to say that before the end of July. That because I told them in a period after Carnival, after we get the outturn, I'm having a meeting with them tomorrow, and then tremendous work we are doing in health and in education. Just right now, we are the Chief Personnel Officer and the staff at Service Commission is 60-something tuition scholarships which are being awarded. The Student Loan Committee with the economically disadvantaged student interviewing students now. We have done since 2002 roughly $90 million in student loans for economically disadvantaged students. That process is going on. These are things which initiatives, they haven't lapsed, They're all continuing. Things which are happening, the facilities which are being built in health, which I've spoken about before. Just a few weeks ago, we graduated 837 with A-levels, associate degrees, and degrees from the community college. We launched the project, the $6 million project with University of the West Indies for addition to the open campus and the development. We are on track. One university college graduate, one university stroke college graduate for every household, on average, for St. Vincent and Grenadines by 2025. And as I say, all of this we are doing, and we are not involved in any irrelevance, like what is now preoccupying the attention of the opposition. And before I open the lines, I just want to tell them that we are about to commence another $2.4 million through the National Lottery for Physical Development of Sporting Facilities. And I'll call what they are, this new round. Remember, at the moment, we are working on Kaliakwa. Yeah. We are working on Hope, Penistone, and we're working on Cumberland. Then there's the rehabilitation for the hard court in Camden Park. Then there is the development of the pavilion itself at Camden Park. Then the facility, the hard court and allied facility at Greg's. Then they're supposed to be in Greg's. Eustace and Ramos supposed to be in Greg's tonight. While they're doing that, with a lot of hot air, I'm dealing with the facility for the youths up there. Then there is the facility at Golden Grove, down Chateaubelair. Then there is the hard court, volleyball, the bleachers construction at Gome. That's a significant one, over $300,000. Then the hard court at Curtains. Then at Leyu. Another one for Saboto in New Grounds. Hard court there. Then there's a big facility at Raboka, which we are going to put there because we have to do that work. It's over $250,000. While we're doing the work on Chile, the big Chile playing field, which is a big project, which we're estimating to spend nearly $700,000 at Chile. And then another one in Saboto's constituency, the hard court project at Sanssouci. All told, $2.4 million, following upon the $1.7 million for these other facilities which are in the works. Now, this is part and parcel of the $6 million loan from the NIS, where you get the good interest rate of 6.5%, and the lotto is liquid and could pay its debts. There are other things I can talk about, but I believe that that is enough for an opening statement so that the people of this country will see the work, what this government is doing, and the way in which we are shaping up the agenda, the development agenda for our fourth term airport, geothermal, port modernization, the cruise ship pier, the city at Annesville, the Mount Twin Peters Hope, Chatham Bay, Adams Bay, the medical school, the Otley Oil project, the farmers, fishermen support company, the roads which we are doing, the Digicel call center, and all what is taking place in health and education, sports and culture, or is in the offing with football, and I'm relying, I am telling them, I'm saying to them, please get past Aruba for me. And then let us, you see, because if we get past, right now, between now and when we meet the U.S. in the second leg next year, we have between, say, 4 months and 13 months. 3.5 months to November this year to meet the Americans in the 4th round. And then we are now in August. It's September next year, so we're talking about 13 months. For when they're coming back here for the return leg. At least that is the data, that's the information that I have available to me. If I'm wrong with any date, please, the football lovers, come in but and tell me, correct me. But you see where we are going, and we have to hype this. And remember, we have to be out to support Aruba, support ourselves against Aruba on the 4th of September. Vital. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for your opening comments this evening. Taking the time to discuss at length the economic projects in terms of the projects outlined by the government, work that is to be done in the next couple of months, as well as the support received from the National Lotteries Authority towards the sporting facilities across the country. This is Ask the Prime Minister on the National Broadcasting Corporation, Star FM and Garifuna Radio. And at this time, we're going to invite you to call and ask your questions. The contact number is 4572705. If you're calling outside of St. Vincent, just add area code 78445727005. You can also reach us on Magic Jack at 516-350-9891. And we will take our first caller at this time. Good evening and welcome to the program, Max Prime Minister.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, and PM.
Yes?
Yes, watching listen to the bridges now.
I didn't hear you, my brother.
The A bridges.
Yes, the A bridges.
Yes, the A canal thing and the stumpy equipment. The A bridges now.
Yes.
That's the fellow starting with A can. We come off the plane.
Yes.
You can A can in the A bridges now. So watching them on TV.
You're watching them on TV right now?
Oh, he's looking at the API, Prime Minister.
Oh, you're looking at API tonight?
Yeah.
So you see the air bridges?
Yeah.
It's beautiful, eh?
Yeah.
Those air bridges.
Can't pay the money.
$2 million. $1 million a piece we have to custom make them and to install them.
Yeah. Yeah. So according to the one over the stadium, like the stadium, the National Stadium.
Yes.
Like we get 20 games too.
Yes. What is happening with the stadium, my brother, is this.
Yeah.
And I explain this to people all the time.
Yeah. I got this now for you.
Yes. We did the designs for the stadium. And we took advantage of the time when the World Cup was going on in 2007. We have the designs. We spent 50-something Cricket World Cup I'm talking about. We spent 50-something million on Cricket World Cup to fix up Annesville because Annesville was running down. We fixed it well. We did stubs. We did the field outside Annesville there. We did the bridge there. We did Sion Hill. Remember, we did all those facilities. And for practice for the warm-up games and for the actual warm-up games. Remember Australia was here? No. I said in 2007, I will take a break from building the facility the stadium in 2008. Because I just spent 50-something million, and I had to spend another 50-something million for the stadium. I say I will do some community fields and do some work there in 2008. And then in 2009, we will come to the stadium. Of course, we know in the middle of 2008, in July, oil prices went to $147.50 US a barrel. Our economy took a knock. Then, in September that year, we had the financial crisis in the United States, which metamorphosed, which evolved into a full-blown economic recession, the effects of which are still with us, and economies which, in our part of the world, which focus on services. You see what happened in Barbados, Jamaica, so on and so forth. So, we addressed other things and said we have these plans and we are going forward with them, but we couldn't go forward with them in this particular period because of other competing matters on which we had to be spending the resources. You notice we're doing a lot of sporting facilities right now. We're doing $6 million worth. 1.7 first, then we're doing 2.4. Now, what we are doing, and let me say this, for people who haven't heard that in their area something is going to be done, that they haven't heard out, they're called out. There's another round to come. Like for instance, the people of Bayabu, there's a facility which has to be built at the, and I say Bayabu because you live not your father, live not too far down from the, as you come into town from the playing field at Bayabu. You have to build a facility there, change room and so on and so forth, and some seating. And we have been talking to people in football, we have been talking to people in athletics about how we can do the stadium, maybe some functional thing in phases. And that's where the discussion is. But this is not something which we're not doing. You can rely on us to be the government who will build the stadium.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. We'll now take another caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Ask Prime Minister.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, comrade.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Fine.
Yes, my first two questions, very quickly. My first one has to do with austerity. Could you please let us know the advantages and disadvantages of austerity and whether or not any government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines should practice it? And my next question, after which I'll listen off air. In terms of stimulating our economy, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, what plans do you have to further stimulate our economy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, especially if you get in straight for, as you say, four in a row?
Yes.
I'll listen off here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller.
Well, first of all, as I said in my budget speech, austerity is a wrong and dangerous idea, certainly for us. If you're going to have austerity, you're going to be laying off public servants and teachers. You're going to cut back on the social safety net. The 100 people or thereabouts who working as home helpers for the elderly, you'll chop that program because it's $1 million they're spending for the old people. The amount of money you're spending for the university, you cut that back drastically. Student loans, monies for the farmers. That's what austerity is telling you, you know. On the other hand, I mean, if you do austerity, what you would be doing, you will be cutting demand in the country, there would be less money for people to have in their hands to make a demand for goods and services. And why are you going to reduce the extent of demand to that extent? Of course, you can't, as a government, overspend to such an extent that you become profligate and excessive. This is why I say you have to balance prudence and enterprise. In an earlier period, I had said remember the debate which we were having with the IMF about whether we should be counter-cyclical or not. We won the debate and we won the opinion. Because even the IMF conceded that what we were doing was correct. Because they had come from a theoretical perspective. But you had to move from just a simple counter-cyclical to balance the enterprise with prudence as you enter the phase in the downturn in the world economy. And try to make sure that your people are not overtaxed. Make sure that you have sensible controls on expenditure to cut out waste and improve efficiency, but to get a lot of money from soft loans and grants and to go big time for foreign direct investment while encouraging our people overseas to send home money for the remittances. If you notice how we're doing it, it's straightforward, but sensible. Now, the brother asked about how we're stimulating the economy. The very extent to which the government spends significant monies, recurrent, nearly $600 million, and capital, $250 million, $200 million, $175 million. All that is part of stimulation. But more than that, I just called out a series of projects. I call them out. This is where the economy is stimulated in the real economy, We're building the Argyle International Airport to bring more passengers and to be able to export from it fairly swiftly fruits and vegetables and fish. The geothermal project, the port modernization, the cruise ship pier, the city at Annesville, the investment at Mountain Peters Hope, what happened at Adams Bay, the expansion of all the guest houses and apartments to accommodate the students, the medical students, all that is part and parcel of stimulating the economy. What's happening now at Otley Hall now, the Farmers Support Company, we're doing the roads, the digital call center. I'm reeling off the same thing. You notice when Kentucky closed down temporarily, there was rejoicing in the opposition. Kentucky closed. But it wasn't government fault. Because while Kentucky closed, you notice Bex Gonzalez with Subway, how they expand the business. And I'm advised that Bex bought the Kentucky building. Understand that that's where they're going to have a Subway. Of course, Kelly Glass will find somewhere else to put that Kentucky. That's what I was informed. So economic activity is taking place. And Kelly Glass, he's doing the training of people. We see you recruiting people. They're obviously going to have two places immediately. They would take the building out at Annesville and the one here near to Customs, which is leased, It's a lease property. Is a constituent of mine, Mr. Harry, who owns it, and he'd no doubt do his arrangement with Kelly Glass, as he had with Ken Bowie, who incidentally is a very good businessman, Ken Bowie, not because that a problem occurred. And he has spoken on that. And he's a good man. But Kelly obviously would have to find some way to put the big Kentucky in town. And there are places, he has told me, but I'm not at liberty to say places which he's considering. But you wouldn't hear these things coming from the opposition. Must be the first time you hear anybody talking about this on the radio. So, my brother, I answer you on austerity and I answer you on the various things of stimulating the economy.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. We take another caller. Good evening and welcome to Ask Prime Minister. Hello, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Dave Roberts. I don't know if the Prime Minister remember me.
Dave, how can I forget you?
I hope you remember you made me a promise, you know.
Well, you and I have made each other several promises. One promise is that despite the fact that you have never supported me politically, we will continue to love each other.
That's how it should be.
Absolutely. When you came to grammar school, I was your senior.
Okay.
But I don't know whether you give me sufficient respect as your senior. Hey, Dave,
all of that.
How you going, man?
Listen to me. I'm speaking to you from my hospital bed.
Oh, Heavenly Father, I am sorry.
sure you must have heard that I'm in the hospital.
No, nobody told me.
Nobody told you, man. You're too busy doing...
No. Take, for instance, I didn't even know until yesterday that my friend Carlisle's wife, who is my dear friend, was also hospitalized.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And well, I spoke to Carlisle. Dave, I would have come down and see you if I knew. I'll look for you tomorrow.
You better do that soon because anyhow, on the other...
Which ward you on?
I'm a surgical.
Okay. All right, comrade.
But I heard you speak about monetary stability, our debt to GDP. I must say you're really impressive, you know. If all that I heard tonight, nobody can beat you, you're invincible. You seem to have a remarkable record as the best Prime Minister in the whole Caribbean.
Well, Dave, I'm listening to you, you know.
Yes, listen to me. Because, you know, I'm saying it like it is, huh?
Yes.
Your 77% to GDP, is that the best in the Caribbean?
No, not the best in the Caribbean. In the independent countries in the OECS.
Okay.
And
how far can you go before you start getting yourself into the red zone, so to speak?
Well,
is this workable for now?
Yes.
Or could it be lost?
Yes, it's workable. Take, for instance, Dave. When we finish the airport, the capital project out there, we will have to be there. There's an aspect of the budget which we have to reorient because we are coming with the operation of the airport, and then we will be requiring a lot of resources in the promotion of the tourism. Because when you have a small airport, like we have with the E.T. Joshua, there's a limit to the numbers which you can get. The bigger the international airport now, we will have to make greater strides in terms of the promotion of it.
But okay,
of the country.
You have to understand my situation, huh? Because you may have to refund my credit and all of that. You know, I'm saying
I understand. But you know, one of the things, Dave, you're remarkable. You're on your hospital bed and you're still thinking about the comrade and to listen.
I'm glad you recognize that. So let the whole country hear I'm speaking to you. And I don't want to get involved with the politics.
Yes.
Although I would like to know when we are going to call the elections, right? I don't. Is it going to be before the airport is complete or after the airport?
Dave, you have heard me in the house on this. I put my voting finger to the sky.
To the sky.
To my heavenly Father.
Mm-hmm.
And I follow the sage advice of the ancient prophet Eli in his communication to young Samuel. And I adopt the words for my purposes. As I put my voting finger skywards, I say, "Speak, Lord. Your servant Ralph is listening."
All right. Let me find out this thing. I heard the big announcement that you are making efforts to reduce the national debt. Could you give me a figure as to what our national debt is and how? I heard you said you're making efforts to reduce it. How are you going about doing this?
Well, we have a medium-term debt strategy where we're doing a lot of controls.
Let me say this. I'm about to come off of this.
Okay, Dave.
So you have a lot of refunding to do. Thank you for your time anyhow, as I'm on my hospital bed.
All right. We're doing a number of controls, in particularly on the recurrent side, and we keeping out waste and we trying to be more efficient. You take, for instance, well, we have a target agreed by the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and we have submitted our debt management plan to the central bank, because we're working with them on it, as all the countries, and we have agreed centrally. And we publish our fiscal targets for the sake of transparency and to see how we're moving towards them. And our fiscal target for all our countries is to reach 60% of gross domestic product by the year 2030. And we are satisfied from our plan. We will reach there before 2030, way before 2030. The size of the debt is not the issue on which you must focus. Is what is the percentage of that debt to GDP. So if you grow the economy, and you grow the economy sufficiently that you have your debt to GDP falling. So you have to be very careful, very prudent with your expenditure. And at the same time, you have to grow the economy. That's why I talk about prudence and enterprise. It's not just one thing alone, which is going to make you come to that number. So you have to grow the economy and at the same time, try to make sure you consolidate yourself fiscally. You take up to the end of June, 6 months of our fiscal year, 2015. What do we have? Revenue and grants amount to $256.3 million, roughly the same as last year at this time. But last year, we got some special grants. And we got also some particular revenue measures, like remember we got $10 million, 10 point something million dollars from the Mustique Company for revenues in advance. So if you take that out, because remember this year, we're not getting any revenue for the Mustique agreement. We get other revenues from Mustique, but not for the Mustique agreement because they paid us this year's money last year because I had to deal with the immediate recovery for people. But yet, revenue and grants is about the same, $256 million. And the main items of revenue, taxes on incomes and profits gone up by 9%. Taxes on international trade gone up by 8%. The VAT went up, the VAT collections, not the VAT rates, went up by 6%, indicating some uptick in the economy. The VAT on domestic transactions, the VAT I gave you for international trade, but on domestic transactions, the number was flat, same $37 million. last year this time as well as this year. But the taxes on domestic transactions went up by 2.8% overall. The total expenditure, well, capital revenue and grants amounted to nearly $14 million compared to $4 million last year. Total expenditure this year at the end of June is $280.5 million compared to $267.6 million last year, an increase of about almost 5%. But the recurrent expenditure went up less, just by 2%, from $242.5 million to $247.5. But personal emoluments went up by 1.6%, wages by 3.8%. The pensions went up by 2%. But where we have the increase for the capital expenditure is that capital expenditure this year is 31% more than last year this time, from 25 million to 33 million. Giving us a deficit of $5 million compared to a surplus last year at this time of $9 million. But the reason why you had the surplus last year is because we were spending less on the capital. And with the overall balance, we moved from 10.7 to $24 million. The overall balance, because we're spending less on the capital. But in relation to the current, last year we had some special items which we got in to strengthen the revenue base. So the overall numbers don't look too bad. In fact, the overall numbers are pretty okay. But we're not out of the woods because we're running a deficit on the current account, albeit a small deficit. In fact, our deficit, which we were planning by this time, would have been about $10 million, but we are half of that. So in relation to the budget, we are implementing the budget fairly prudently. But those are the numbers. So I not only talk General Dave, but I give you some numbers to show you how we're managing the business. But all these numbers, once we get on train, you see these growth and competitive issues which I addressed, the economic projects, those things, the airport come in, the matter of the geothermal and the more students coming in and the hotel expansion and so on and so forth. All of those things are going to create the basis, the port modernization, the city at Arnesville, all of these things. In short, but the foundation for all of that, I must come back to say, is people. And that is where the education revolution is going to prove to be critical. When I'm dead and gone, you two young people will still be here. You at the controls and you, Dion. You remember I tell you this. They would say it's a lucky thing that Ralph and the ULP had the vision for us to spend so much money on education. You're starting to see it, but you ain't see it full-blown yet. Bit by bit, you're seeing it. Because for all of these tourism facilities which are coming, and the work which you're doing in cocoa, and what you're going to be doing in coffee, and farming more scientifically, you're having more scientific modes of farming. The same thing going to be happening more and more in fishing. To run the hotels, the quality of the staff is going to be critical. And that's more and more you see that happening. You're going to the restaurants, you're seeing it. People are better trained. And in the medium into the longer term, you will see the effect of the education revolution.
Thank you very much. I think we should say good night to Dave and tell him thanks and wish him and all the patients at the hospital a very speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
And we're happy that you've joined us.
And Dave, I have to go down to Mustique tomorrow afternoon, but I have to start. I have an appointment tomorrow morning at 6:45. But somewhere during the course of the day, I'll try and see if I could get away. If not, I'll come by and see you on Saturday when I come back from Mustique.
Okay, let's take another caller. Caller Magic Jack, good evening and welcome to the program. Ask Prime Minister.
Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. How are you doing? Good evening. Louis Days, Louis speaking.
Hey, Louis.
How are we going on, sir?
You hear me talking about football too?
Yes, and I call in about that.
Yes.
All right. I want to thank you for at least putting it on the list so that there can be some discussion at this time. I think is very urgent. You mentioned that you're just wanting them to pass Aruba, and I know that's a wish, but I am very confident that they will pass Aruba and go on to America.
Yes.
But the thing about it is, after Aruba, America is close by in terms of playing.
Yes.
And I think they need some assistance, Mr. Prime Minister, in terms of how they can have a holistic training program. Not only the kicking of the ball, they can do that already. There's no question about their quality at that level. What I'm looking at is the psychological preparation, the mental preparation.
And the fitness.
Those guys will get to the fitness as they prepare, and I'm confident.
But Louis, you know that very often in our competitive matches, we do well in the first half, and we start to fade away as the game goes on. When we play in top teams
because
now.
That's where the mental toughness comes in.
Yes.
That's what is needed like this.
Yes.
I'm very pleased. Last Friday I read an article by Dr. Miller, Giselle Miller.
Yes.
And I felt that she should be an integral part of the technical team.
That's a fantastic woman, you know.
Fantastic.
Giselle is a fantastic. She's an angel down at the hospital.
Wow.
She is the work she did, for instance, with the people at Rock Gutter in Fancy.
Yes.
Man, I tell you something, we're not sufficiently appreciative of her, you know. And I'm pushing the officials in the Ministry of Health for us to get something so that she has to advance more. Because she's high quality, we can't lose her.
No. So then that's why I said, is that the kind of training that the guy did for mental exercises?
Yes.
Off? How can they, you're coming up against a team whose strategy may not necessarily be in skills on the foot, but whose mental toughness has been pushed to the limit, and they were able to withstand and to able to build on that side.
And Louis, you get my assurance.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't sat down and talked to Venel Coombs and his executive. And
yes.
I guess they will come and talk to me at some time, and the Minister of Sports.
I think the quicker the better, the sooner the better. Because
but
we have to put some strategic planning in place.
Yes, and I want us to put aside resources, and I would like to help to mobilize resources from private sector entities. Not just the domestic private sector, but people who invest in us and from overseas and so on and so forth, to have a good. You remember in an earlier period, when we were getting somewhere, I had started a sports foundation, putting money in it for the purposes of, we had provided a lot of money, both to the government, lottery and monies which I had raised. and I'll do the same thing again. Because
All right,
this is why I said
of those guys.
this is why I said we have 3.5 months for the first game with America. And as I understand it, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, the second game is in St. Vincent in 2016.
I think so.
Sometime.
But
So that we will have about 13 months for the second leg. And
but we want to make sure we when we hit the ground in America that we begin running.
Absolutely.
You have some problems like this. Where they're playing is in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes.
Right? And sometime I think it's the 13th of November.
Yes.
Now, you have problems right now where a lot of the black footballs, whether it's in Europe, you see it in Russia, in England, in Italy, and so on, when they go onto the field, the opposing fans start to shout racial slurs.
Yes.
Are they mentally tough?
Yes.
In a foreign environment with a stadium of 35, 40,000 people.
Yes.
Where almost everybody is on for the opposing side.
Well, you know,
and they stand to the pressures of that. So this is why we need to start that process now. With not even so much the money.
I am hoping that I will have at least 2 days. To go when my brothers are in my footballing brothers, when we are in St. Louis, because that is an important game. Well, every game is
Very
important.
Game. I have begun the process of planning for my time to be there, because how much Vincentians would be there with a flag to show them up and so on. And we need to start to realize that as a people, you have in cricket, Australia playing the West Indies, a whole entourage of Australian people in the Caribbean at every venue. And shouting out and supporting. So the fans play an integral part in that also.
But you heard my practical approach, division for when they come back, when they come to St. Vincent. When America comes to St. Vincent.
I want it to start now.
Absolutely. That's why I raise it.
Give them a load. Give them a loan of Dr. Miller to do some technical things. Let them we have to start to look at their eating habits, because we are going to demand more of their physical body.
Yes.
So therefore they have to be able to put that in. And then another issue, a very important issue. The technical team, either one member or 2 members of the technical team, must be able to travel to games that involve the USA and Trinidad and Guatemala, and see some, so that they could start to have strategic planning and technical analysis of the opponent, where the weak spots are, where their strengths are, who can we counteract it with, who is the fastest person here, and those are the kind of things. But we have to start it now.
You know why I like this discussion which we are having here, because the football touches our national psyche, touches the young people, touches our economy, as I explained it.
Yes.
And while we are talking this serious, important matter, you have some people going around talking a lot of irrelevance. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Talking a lot of irrelevance.
We've been at the discussion of football for over 15 years now. When I was on your porch that night, we should start to think about the needs of football. What can we do? How can we move forward? So we have begun this conversation very long time ago.
Yes.
And I just feel impressed. In fact, I have started to look how does the technical team, what do we know of the weather patterns in Missouri?
Yes.
How can they take up to it? What is the elevation? Those are the kind of things I'm talking about, besides actually being on the field.
Missouri, I understand it. You know the geography of America better than I do, but that's Midwest.
Yeah, it's near to the Mississippi River. In fact, they call it where the Mississippi. Where they're going to play is where the Mississippi River and the Missouri River kind of meet together.
And remember...
And so the temperature it's like our temperature.
Yeah.
And one more important fact about it, in all America's preparation for World Cup preparation, so for the last 25 years, they played in Missouri twice.
Yes.
And they never won a game. They
I
never
see.
won a game in Missouri. So that's a plus. So if SVG, Vince Heat comes here and at least could draw with America, which is the pattern they had there.
But still,
0-0
we must
against
remember,
Panama.
you must still remember, it's the month of November, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
But it will be still kind of warm.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just put the month in place.
Yeah, the month is important. So
Yeah.
I want, I hope that as we're speaking on the radio that some fraternity, some members of the football fraternity can kind of inspire them to come to meet with you, sit down and have a strategy. How are we going to move forward? We need some money to send these guys. And Mr. Prime Minister, when they come to America, our guys must not go in a motel and the American in a 5-star. That's defeat before the game starts.
Well, these things, we have to plan everything properly.
You have to plan them now.
And
You know?
I believe that I am the first politician that you hear talking about this matter, even 1 year ahead.
Well, that's good. I want to thank you for that.
All right. So
Okay,
that
so have
is
a
a matter is a matter which is in my head.
Saturday. Yes, I'll be seeing Jimmy Saturday.
All right, man. God bless.
God bless, man. Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Let's take another caller. Good evening and welcome to Ask Prime Minister. Hello. Good evening. Welcome. Good evening and welcome to Ask Prime Minister.
Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister.
Hi. Good evening, my brother.
Yes, I have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
No, sure.
Okay. The question is, right, we have a situation, our national debt, they've just spoke about it. I don't recall that you said the amount. How
Yes,
much
I
is
did.
it?
1.5 million.
1.5 million.
Yes.
Okay, also we have a situation where the
Billion, 1.5 billion.
Yeah, where the opposition is claiming that your government owe the private sector some money as well.
Yes.
Also, there are some landowners at Argyle who this government owes.
Yes.
Also, there's some. It takes years to assist some people who was affected by disasters because we don't have the money. I believe.
Yes.
Okay, this situation, Mr. Prime Minister. You and I know that there's a massive distribution of building material across this country at this time.
Yes.
To able-bodied men and women who have the potential to work, who have the potential to be productive. My question to you is, Mr. Prime Minister, how could you, at the beginning of a hurricane season, justify that action, the giving out of material, knowing that there are people who waited for years, couldn't get assistance?
Okay. Let me deal with the last issue first. We voted in the budget for several programs in relation to housing and material distribution. The materials which are being used now were delivered in December last year, just over $5 million worth of materials. These materials were principally for the reconstruction of houses after the disaster, and secondly, for the Lives to Live program, and thirdly, some materials for indigent persons and persons who have some particular housing problems. Those are the monies. I'm not dealing with HLDC, which is the low-income housing program, which is a different arrangement. I'm talking about the central government programs. We have built in the region close to 200 houses since the disaster in 2013, which is a remarkable number. And we have done so not only for persons in that disaster, but for what I called the residue from Thomas and the April floods. I just pause to say we are the first government in the history of this country that has ever embarked on such an exercise. We began to do so after the 2002 tropical storm Lily. If you want to see evidence of that, go to Rose Hall. You'll see 3 or 4 such houses. There are others after other disasters. So that's, and I will say that is a remarkable story. We have done the first rung of Lives to Live out of this same program with about 60 or 65 units. Some of them are repairs, some of them are toilets and baths, some of them are single separate houses. And then we have given out loads of materials for persons who had their houses damaged. We gave the various levels, level 1 to level 4, how we deal with those, with all of those different levels. Some we give materials to repair on the spot. Some of them we ourselves assisted in effecting the repairs if the repairs were substantial, were required to be done substantially. And relatively small amounts of material have been given out for persons who have ongoing challenges. A little more, some have been given out through the traditional social development program, which is about $750 worth of material, $1,000 or thereabouts. But that has been supplemented by this particular program, which Parliament had voted for. And you read my budget speech, you read my commentaries, you will see that. I don't know where you have the evidence of able-bodied people who are being given these materials. A person may be able-bodied, but the person may well be in a situation of immediate need because of their financial, economic circumstances. I am sure. You're there with me, my brother?
Yes. Can you allow me to?
I am sure. Wait, no. I am sure that if you go into Mongranan, for instance, I believe you're from Mongranan?
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
Good.
Yeah.
I believe that if you go, I think I don't know you so well, but I know of you. Your name is Brian.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, Brian Dorset. I am sure that a program of this kind, you will be able to find for me the odd example here and there where somebody receives some material who is undeserving. And that has happened. I do not approve of that. But do not, for heaven's sake, Brian, take the exception and make it the rule. There's a tendency for us to do that. And I urge you not to do so. You say you wanted to make a comment so that we have the dialogue on the matter.
Yes. Well, I know, Mr. Prime Minister, there are a lot of able-bodied people who are getting these materials.
No, but you come back. You see, if we are having a discussion,
yeah,
you made the point about able-bodied. And I'm saying a person may well be able-bodied, but in need because of their economic circumstances, their financial circumstances. So somebody needs an able-bodied person or couple who needs, the couple need 10 sheets of galvanized and they need a few pieces of board because the board them rotten. Okay, they're able-bodied. Some of them may well be agricultural workers. They may well be working in a store downtown.
Could I supplement?
Why if you think that such persons should not be given any assistance, that's why you support the NDP and not the ULP. Because you have a different philosophical premise, my brother Brian.
Yeah, could I
and I urge you to reflect on what I'm saying. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. The point is that this government is borrowing quite a large sum of money, sir. We can't pay our debts.
Who say we can't pay our debt?
As in the case with the private sector, as in the case
no, but I have dealt. You see, Brian.
The question is,
Brian, hold on. If you let us, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. Facts are sacred. Anybody could have whatever opinion they want.
Okay.
Some can. Wait. I have said it before, and I've repeated it. We do owe private sector. But when you put payables in the budget and you see a number 25 million, for instance, of payables, you will owe the private sector maybe $6 million. We will owe other state enterprises money. And that is, and there's several reasons why we will owe the private sector. Sometimes, very often I can tell you, it has to do with how are you clearing up the VAT, particularly for construction companies. Some of it has to do we have the documentation properly? Some of it, and I rail against it, is because of negligence in the administrative apparatus of the state, not the political apparatus. So let us get what the facts are. We pay our debts. In fact, the private sector owes us nearly $200 million in taxes. Several times what the state owes. Of course, if you, Brian, owe the private sector, owe the government $100,000, that's no solace if the government owe me 15 and I can't get my money. You understand what I mean?
I'm listening.
So I understand the point, but I just want us to put the facts on the table.
Okay. Could I ask one last question?
Sure.
I've listened to you and Senator Francis.
Yes.
Whenever the opposition or even journalists raise the question of repair to roads, you use the assertion that the vehicle tax and the driver's license and the vehicle license, and you give the amount.
Sure.
But something I don't understand is that why you don't count the import duty? Why you don't count the tax on tires, the tax on parts, the tax on gasoline? Why you only pick out those two, and is using that as a reason not to?
Yeah, but even if, Brian, even if you were to take the import duties on vehicles, and you were to take on the fuel, it is nowhere near what is required to fix the roads. I repeat it, and my brother, I don't know you so well, but I know your family well, because I come from Connery and the Dorsets in Bellevue and so on, and you're related to Chacha them.
Yes, correct.
Good. So that I know you. And I have a good relationship with Dorset family, whom I love. And I don't think I know you particularly well, but, and we should at some time, you should perhaps sometime pass by and have a cup of tea or coffee with me at the office, and we talk about some of these things together.
Thanks for the invitation.
I don't have any, and you may get may alter your perspective a little. I just say that. No. We have 80 miles of what you may call highways. The Windward Highway, the Leeward Highway, and the VG Highway. We have spent enormous sums of money and are spending on each of those. On the Windward Highway, we rebuilt the entire highway from Sally Spring, go right up to Fancy, including the Rabuka Bridge and other bridges in between for $140 million. We got some in grant, we got some in loans, and some of it is our own tax money. We are now building the Leeward Highway, the South Leeward Highway, 8 miles. Brian, 8 miles of road, which we are doing there, and you see how we are doing it. Put in the drains, do the surface, widening in some places. Between Hospital Road and Layu, Post Office. It's about $25 million, Brian. You're talking about $3 million a mile. It's a lot of money, and we're doing the VG Highway. We have secondary roads. We have about 400 miles, maybe 450 miles of secondary roads. They're at various levels of comfort or repair or disrepair. And we have maybe 250, 275 miles of feeder roads. You would know as a countryman that there are some feeder roads which during the time of the NDP were not touched for 17 years. I just want to say this. What we are trying to do, and I have said to you, I have said to the country, Brian, we have the infrastructure in place where when the airport is complete, because of the asphalt plant we have there, the stone crusher and the concrete batching plant and equipment, and we just strengthen with having 2 asphalt zippers, which are fantastic equipment, which is pulverizing the material on the road. I don't know if you go up I don't know if you went up
I've seen them. I've seen the machine on Camelo page.
You went up Fair Hall, or I saw it on TV?
No, I saw it Camelo. I have it on his Facebook page.
Okay, I have it on the Facebook page. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not a Facebook man, because I use the internet for the purposes of reading serious journals and newspapers and so on. And you know, at my age, Brian, I have to use my time wisely. I can't too much Facebook with a lot of gossip. I ain't complaining if people do it, you know. I'm just telling you about I myself now.
Yeah, but all I wanted to know is why you was omitting the...
No, but I'm telling you that even if you omit, what I was talking about was the monies for the repairs as distinct from big restructuring on the roads. All I was saying is that, as a rule of thumb, the money which I collect for the what you may call it, the driver's license and the motor vehicle license,
yeah,
I give more than that amount to BRAGSA for the purposes of ongoing repairs. And I'm saying that anything else other than that, we have to go and get grants or soft loans. That's the point I was making.
Okay, Mr. Prime Minister.
No, I want to say this too, and while you're at it.
Yeah, okay.
Brian, you're a countryman.
Yeah, correct.
And I believe you listen to me. You know I have a fundamental fairness, F-A-I-R,
okay,
N-E-S-S in me. We have done a lot of roads. There's a piece of road which is done in the Goss Mountain Road, where I have my house. When you have the NDP will say that I'm fixing that road, but not fixing other people's road, is the lowest depths of politics, which a person like you, who I believe has some elemental fairness, should reproach such people for. Goss Estate, as you know, is about 250, 270 acres of land. I only own 10 acres up there now.
Okay.
The rest of the land, on both forks of the road, when you come up in Goss, you have a fork which goes to the right and goes, take you wrong to Backwater, wrong the McCracken area in Mount William. And the left fork, the left of the fork takes you up in the center of Goss. A lot of agricultural lands are there. The road had been breaking away from before Thomas in 2010. DuPont, asked DuPont, a senior road supervisor, went there when I was building my house. And when they say it's built recently, I started to build my house in my second term and finishing the second term. DuPont started without, as a senior road supervisor, without my permission, my approval, my knowledge. When I heard that he started to concrete the road, I stopped him. That's why you went there and you see only a little piece was done. And tell him to go to Byron Mountain where the roads there needed to be fixed. But after 2010 Thomas, the April flood, and then the 2013 disaster, the road mash up in each of the phases. And you had to go to the left side of the bank and dig it away. And Brent Bailey, the chief engineer, is the Prime Minister. You can't have a state of self-denial. This road is collapsing. If I don't do anything, not only would you not be able to pass, but farmers will not be able to pass either. And that's why he, as the chief engineer, put it down as one of the disaster management roads under a CDB project. And that is phase 1. I even gave them land to cut without a cent. In fact, twice I gave them land from my land to cut.
Okay.
And
okay,
wait, and if you then, from where the road is finished, they have spent $200 and something thousand. Rafi Crichton has the contract stabilizing the road on the right fork going up into Mount William. And Bragg says to do some work on the left fork to stabilize, so that we will do those in the meantime that way until we get more money, either grants or soft loans, to do the concreting all the way up on the two forks. That's the story.
Okay.
That is the reality.
Okay, Mr. Prime Minister, thanks very much.
God bless you, man.
Okay, good.
Oh, by the way, the land at Argyle.
Yeah.
We are paying. We owe some people, but one of the problems also which we have, a big problem, is the question of the documentation, title to land.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, sir.
And I hope you come by. You're a Seventh-day Adventist?
No, sir.
Oh, because if you were, I'm sorry that I would have invited you for coffee, because you know our Seventh-day Adventist brothers and sisters don't drink coffee.
No.
But you must come by, man.
Okay, Mr.
God bless you.
Thank you very much for calling our caller, Prime Minister. It's 10 o'clock on the dot. I'm not sure with your permission. We can probably take another, or do you wish to?
Yeah, we can take another call.
Okay. Hello, good evening. You're the Prime Minister's bonus call. Welcome to Ask Prime Minister. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Pleasant good evening to you, Mr. Prime Minister.
My princess.
How do you do?
I'm fine.
I'm not.
Hello?
I am not. I have an issue, and I'm hoping that I can get your ear on it.
Yes. Could you raise your voice a little for me? I'm not hearing you well in my ear. In the.
I'm normally told to tone my voice down, but I will raise my voice.
A little.
A little. My mother was admitted to the hospital here on Monday.
Yes.
She was admitted. It was a fall. She went in by ambulance with convulsions, vomiting, headaches. She got into the emergency room, and a chest X-ray was ordered. A CAT scan was still followed. That CAT scan was ordered for Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. because I assume there may have been no one there to do the CAT scan Monday night. Well, that CAT scan wasn't done until about 1
Until
o'clock.
when?
Until about 1 o'clock, 1 p.m.
On which day?
On Tuesday.
I see. So about how many hours after?
Inconsequential, considering that
Okay.
until today, the CAT scan has still not been read. You have a 90-odd-year-old patient.
Wait. The CAT scan was done on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. And when I spoke to the nurse...
And it's now
yesterday,
Thursday night and it hasn't been read.
They haven't been read. Which means that if mother's problem, the stroke that she assumably had, was due to blood clot or bleeding out in the head, they still have no way of knowing what treatment to give to her because they haven't gotten the CAT scan read.
No,
I am so frustrated.
Would you? I'll be terribly upset if I were in your position, and I'm very
Upset is an
concerned about it.
understatement, Mr. Prime Minister.
Now, if you do me a favor, could you call my secretary tomorrow? Her name is Angie. Could you give her your name and number?
I will definitely pass by. And I will pass by there and give Angie my name and number.
Okay then. And I believe the name sounded to me like a very charming lady from on the eastern side of the island who lived overseas for a while.
Mr. Prime Minister, I am of no consequence.
No, you are of consequence. We are all of consequence. Am I correct in...
You are correct. You know who I am, but that is not my problem.
So my ears are good with voices then.
Mr. Prime Minister, my concern is my mother.
No. I take that. And leave it for Angie for me, please. And you and I will talk, and I give her your mom, give her your mom's name too, so that I will contact the Ministry of Health.
A 90-year-old patient.
Huh?
4 days. You have a head trauma. You have convulsion and vomiting.
No. I take the point you're saying, and I'll find out about it.
You get it by morning.
Okay.
I hear you.
I told you that they say by tomorrow morning.
Okay then.
Oh, thank
you.
Thank you. God bless you, and thanks for bringing it to my attention.
Have a very pleasant night.
And I hope your mom gets well. Thanks.
Thank you very much, caller. Prime Minister,
we'll take another one.
We'll take another, and then we'll wrap up shortly. Good evening, and welcome to Ask Prime Minister.
Hello, good night.
Welcome. Could you speak up, please?
Yes, good night.
Good night.
You hearing me, yes?
I'm not hearing you so well.
Good night. You hearing me good now?
I'm hearing you a little better now.
Yes. Prime Minister, I have a serious problem. It's been on for about a year.
You're dropping your
caller,
voice. I'm not hearing you at all.
Okay. Caller, could you take your radio off? We're getting a feedback first and foremost, and just speak directly into the telephone and don't listen to your radio, please.
Okay. You hearing me now?
Just a little bit better, but try and just speak up a bit more if you can, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was saying, I have a problem for like 2 years now, right?
I'm not hearing you.
I have a problem. It's been on for a long time. I've been torn around so many times by the MP for my area. But I really want to talk to you about it. I spoke to you already and still nothing has been done.
The problem concerns what?
A land issue.
A land issue?
Yes, please.
Did you go and try and sort it out with the chief surveyor?
Yes, you took all the information from me, but I just want, if I could speak to you about it privately.
All right. Well, at the next week, if you touch base with Angie for me at my office, tell her what it's about, and you'll get an appointment. Tomorrow is a difficult day for me because I start at 6:45, and then I have to go down to Mustique.
Okay.
in the afternoon, maybe 3-ish or thereabouts, so that so the next week. All right, my princess?
Okay, then.
All right.
Thank you so much for calling,
bless.
and we'll take our final caller, Prime Minister.
Yes.
Good evening and welcome to Ask Prime Minister.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Honorable Prime Minister, how you doing?
Fine.
Evening.
I know we're coming to the end of the line, of the long lead up that you have that is so important to us all the time. I think it should really be the program
Yes.
1 till 11, But let me get straight into the meat of the matter here. This might be a little ticklish for people, but money is always important to our economy in our country, right? So we need to discuss it on all levels, right? Recently, there has been much talk and news about some development regarding the party office for Mr. Yusuf in Sinel, and we all know what happened to that.
Against
So
the, about the what?
the party office for Yusuf in Sinel. So we
Yes.
are not going to get into that. But as far back as in 2011, I think in October of 2011, Senator David Brown had brought a question to you in the Parliament regarding allocations of monies to the NDP for the managing of their office, not necessarily constituency office, but, the NDP party business, right? And a part of the question was how much money was allocated. We know that is 153,000. And another part of the question is that did the opposition utilize the money provisioned as approved by the Parliament? Now, in 2012, I can remember Mr. Eustace, I think, in the appropriation debates, bringing up a matter about some Cubans that came into the country late to the Ministry of Health where they would have bought some chicken for them. And he was requesting a special audit. And he was saying all kind of things about, how they misappropriated money and stuff and so. But very recently on the radio, we hear Mr. Yusuf speaking about the money that was allocated to him for the payment of salaries and stuff at his party headquarters for the running of the NDP business, that some of the monies were used for mortgage payment and stuff. So, it seems like we are going around in circles here with Mr. Yusuf want an audit for, monies not appropriately used, and here he is saying now that he got the government money appropriated to him for specific purposes, not appropriately used. How do you comment on this? Because you would have answered the question that you yourself would not want to call for an audit, but you pointed out that the public servants, the government officers like the clerk of the house, the director of finance, and whoever, the Department of Audit can audit Mr. Yusuf is obviously they need to. What can you say about what has happened recently with Mr. Yusuf's pronouncement of monies allocated to him being used for mortgage payment at his office?
I am really shocked by these kinds of admissions by Mr. Eustace in the way in which money which is appropriated by Parliament for a specific purpose is being used for another purpose. It is not for him to use the money for a purpose other than for that which Parliament has approved.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just give a backdrop. The payments used to be made directly by the clerk of the house.
The invoices would come and
she will pay for the water, the electricity, the
stuff,
telephone, the salary for the research officer, for the driver,
yes,
and for the
secretary and
the secretary, the office attendant. Those were all paid for out of this vote of $160,000 for the office of the leader of the opposition. Parliament, in its wisdom, considers, and rightly so, that the office is an important constitutional office, and therefore it must be resourced with these basic things. Now, the point is this. I took the decision to alter this system because I received on 2 or 3 occasions special warrants for an excess of expenditure. I didn't want to be put in a situation where I will refuse a special warrant relating to an expense from the leader of the opposition office.
So you wanted a more straightforward mode of financing.
So I said, let us give to the office, release to the office, as we do every account in circumstances like that, the money is quarterly in advance. So the money is divided into 4 quarters. And he has to spend it on what the money was approved to be spent on, those things which I just said.
Point taken.
And he has to report to the clerk of the house, who is the accounting officer for these monies. The clerk of the house is the accounting officer for these monies. That he will show how these monies are spent for 1 quarter to get the 2nd quarter. Because the Ministry of Finance will not allow for a drawdown of... This is an administrative matter which is done, not by me, by the officials in the ministry, unless there's a proper documentation for 1 quarter that you get the next quarter. It may well be that they may give you on an undertaking that you will submit the documentation. But it is required because the Director of Audit will be justified to make a query, and if the query is not answered, to make an adverse comment or whatever comment arising from the query.
Yes.
No. He can't say that he's taking the money. I've heard him say that he takes the money to help to buy people books or to pay transportation, or to pay a mortgage. Absolutely not. He cannot do that. He can use his personal money, as many persons do,
to assist,
to help somebody
in the constituency,
with books, or you can send the people to the Ministry of Social Development, where there's a vote for such assistance to be given. And there is transportation. In fact, the reason why it is important that he checks these things is that he says he'll help with somebody for transportation. But does he know whether that person is receiving a transportation grant from the Ministry of Social Development already?
But you see,
the point is this. He is entirely wrong to spend money for purposes for which Parliament
the money was not allocated.
And now that the matter is again in the public domain.
Yes.
I'm looking on with interest to see whether the clerk of the house would demand explanations.
I wanted to ask.
And if she's not satisfied,
yes,
she can report the matter to the Director General of Finance and Planning, or directly to the Director of Audit, to ask for an audit of this account.
An explanation of, I wanted to ask the question here. Just take up in a minute. Because you see, in 2011, each of the months from January to December inclusive, the request was made for 69, 39 to pay salaries, etc., etc. But you went down and you said, I pointed out, Mr. Speaker, that for all the months from January to September, the sum of 69 spend it for salaries, which included that research officer, but whose duties commence on the 15th of October.
Yes. Yes. Well, I had pointed that out.
That have raised a red flag or something.
I had pointed that out, and that was in the House, and I made the point that it is the business of the clerk of the House
to look into the matter.
And I did not myself want to initiate anything, but I made my point absolutely clear. The other thing is this. What is not acceptable is for parliamentarians who receive a constituency office allowance, not a constituency allowance to share money or to do any project, to pay the rent for your constituency office, to hire staff, to pay the electricity, the water, the telephone, internet, whatever. But there are some parliamentarians and I'm not calling their names, who have no constituency office and who are getting this money for the purpose of the constituency office. And what is it used for? Parliament provides that for the constituency office.
But we also know of cases, like a case like where the money was provided but not being used, the rent was not being paid. We have the
Well, I know that there are cases where where there's at least one, maybe two parliamentarians.
Is there anything that the government can do to stem this, to put a stop into this?
Again, that is the business of the director of
I'm not talking about the auditing and stuff and so.
Director
Director of Finance.
No, well, first of all, it's the accounting officer,
which is
who is the clerk of the house,
yeah,
to address this matter. Because if you look in the estimates, you will see that the accounting officer for the House of Assembly is the clerk of the House.
Yes.
And then the Director General of Finance and Planning, these matters in the public domain, can write and ask her, what is happening here? Hear these things. Let us have this matter clarified. Because
So
I would like
yeah.
to see them clarified
So
for the
basically,
MPs and
this
for
is
the...
yes.
For the... Now, the other thing is this. The leader of the opposition gets a sum of money as leader of the opposition. But he also gets...
money for the party to run the opposition.
He gets...
and
No, but
constituency.
additionally, as a representative,
Money, yes.
he gets the $1,500 a month allowance to have a party office. Now, is the office of the leader of the opposition the same thing as his party office?
Well, that is the question the people is asking.
Huh?
You know, because this is a
The office of the leader of the
case
opposition is a separate and distinct office from
the-
that
from a
of the
constituency
office
yes.
of the from that of the office of the representative
headquarters.
for East
Yeah.
Kingston.
East Kingston and constituency and
Those
different things.
those are legitimate questions for people to raise.
so that we can get some answers.
They're legitimate questions for
Yes.
people to raise.
So basically, this is an unmitigated case of misappropriation of funds.
Well, I don't go there because I'm sufficiently a lawyer.
Yes.
And I'm stuffed with reasonableness to say that there are questions which require answers. And when those answers,
they are public servants that can
when
be
there are
removed.
answers provided,
Yes.
one may then be able to make a judgment in relation to those answers which are provided.
All right, Prime
At the
Minister, I really
moment,
do appreciate
we're
it.
raising a series of questions.
Yes.
And we see where some of them point.
I appreciate
Before I
that.
leave with you, I just want to say this and use the opportunity, because I know that you comment on many things. I was absolutely shocked to hear Wellington Ramos in a speech calling leaders of the Garifuna community from overseas who don't agree with him, and they have their divisions.
The monkey
Call them monkeys.
Eat the banana and come down and sit down on the tail.
Call them monkeys.
Yes.
Eating
it's
bananas.
Very insulting, you know? Yes.
You know, I mean, and could you imagine somebody coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and some of the people who have come, pay their own passage, have come and been welcomed by all of us, not just the government, but the whole. This is not the first time that Garifuna brothers and sisters have come from overseas. You know, they come all the time.
They come in all the time.
And specifically, they come very much at National Heroes Day and Independence Day.
Yes,
Those are
yes.
two
And
times.
Homecoming also. They were here for homecoming.
They come. Now, Mr. Ramos, I understand this is his first visit, despite his great love for Urimi, and presumably as an adjunct professor, though an adjunct professor has to be distinguished from a full-time professor at a university,
Yes,
whether assistant, associate, or full professor. An adjunct means, you know, a man who come by sometimes. And if he has some courses which he may take, I don't know if there are any lectures or tutorials in the British system, I don't know. But an adjunct is different than if you're fully on the staff.
Yes.
As an associate, as an assistant, associate, or full professor. I just want to make that point.
Has been totally
and the point is this.
People, you know? Yes.
It would be good to know what he has published that we can all read in his great expertise in history and philosophy and politics. I would like that.
It is stated that he used to write for the Vincentian, but I've never heard of anything.
No. I would like that.
Published.
I know of Mr. Ramos.
I
know of Mr. Ramos. And I know of the opinion of right-thinking people in Belize of Mr. Ramos. I will not say what that opinion is. I just say, but I have enough information. But for him to insult other Garifuna and come here, I mean, Eustace should insist that he apologize for that. The second thing,
he should, yes.
Just bear with me. The second thing is that he has said that he would want to come and form a true and a good organization of Garifuna in St. Vincent.
Heritage Foundation.
So, Darky Williams is not anybody. Zoila Ellis, who is from Belize, who is Garifuna.
Because he indicated if there's one, it's affiliated to a political party. So
Mike Brown
a good one.
is also Garifuna. A lot of people who belong to this organization. Nelsia Robinson. How are you going to so this great Garifuna missionary named Ramos has arrived, and in his missionary zeal denounces those from overseas as monkeys, and those internally as not important because they may support a political party. I just want to say this to the people.
So I'm not understanding the statement he's making.
Yeah, but bear with me again. Let me make this point, Lance. He has made reference that he wrote me, and I've ignored his letters.
And he has
if you write me,
you. Yeah.
and what you write me doesn't make sense, what do you want me to answer you about? I answer. I get a lot of letters from a lot of people, you know. A lot of foolish things come to me, and I don't bother. I answer what I feel like answering, which makes sense and which could carry forward. For instance, when Jomo went to a meeting, and then he wrote back. He wrote and said that he to the effect that I'm talking about Ramos. I'm talking about reparations for native genocide and African slavery.
He wants to separate them.
But that only he who represents the Garifuna nation could be speaking on this thing, and I have to talk to the Garifuna nation, meaning his organization, before I could make any representation on reparations for Garifuna within the borders of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and people who come from our people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
I think the guy's making absolutely
he's
no
something
sense.
Wrong with his head.
Yes, definitely.
When something like that is said. So that I just mentioned this. I mean, Eustace and Ramos are involving themselves with an irrelevance. And Ramos is entirely irrelevant. Entirely irrelevant.
We have taken heed.
And should not be taken seriously.
We have taken heed.
we have our record as to how we address
Proceed
issues
with the
concerning the
Garifuna
Garifuna.
Of course, and the progress
And
that
we
they
have
are
taken
making.
the lead on that.
Yes.
And we are moving forward as usual. But one thing I can say, you don't come with any fly-by-night proposal relating to the citizenship of a country. And then when you're caught napping with it, you say, well, you're going to study it. There are some problems in international law. You're going to find out, and you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and so on. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
Treating citizenship as though it's a joke.
Simple.
Okay,
I really do
caller,
appreciate, yes.
Thank
I
you.
really do appreciate Prime Minister. Thanks a lot, good.
Thank you very much for calling our caller. And Prime Minister, this is where we wrap up this evening. I am not too sure if you want to say, I wish everyone a pleasant night.
I want to wish everybody a good night, and those in the diaspora also, not only here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And again, I hope Dave has speedy recovery. And my dear friend who called about her 90-year-old mom. I mean, I just picture, my mother is 96. So I know how I would feel if she goes to the hospital, does a CT scan. Well, she clearly was not she said the matter was not of any consequence, the length of time which it took between when she arrived and when the CT scan was done. But clearly, if the CT scan was done on Tuesday, it's Wednesday and Thursday. Surely this thing should be read, and we have the people who can read it. So I'd like to find out more facts in that regard, and there may be a valid explanation, or if not a valid explanation, there may be an explanation which provides mitigation of a wrong. But we will find out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and we thank all those persons who called and those who joined us via the internet on the NBC Radio, Star FM, and Garifuna Radio. Thank you so much, Colvin, for accommodating us this evening. Good evening. My name is Dion John. Remember, though, that if you have questions, you can send your questions to pmosvg@vincisurf.com for when next we reconvene with another program. Good night, everyone.